Welcome into the Triple Threat Show powered by Bwin. Alongside my co-host, Mr. Hotshot, Mr. Hothead Aravantinos, the star of the show. It's called the Triple Threat Show with Chima Moneke, Chim D-O Triple G. The uncle from America, George the American, welcomes in the champ, the two-time champ, the producer of Crown Season, an absolute EuroLeague legend, Shane Larkin. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
What an intro. What an intro. George has been killing it with the intros so far this year.
This guy on the show for a while, and we've been talking about it. It's not like he said no. We've been talking about it. But what an opportunity to sit here with you, Shane. Let's start with Crown Season. First of all, thank you for including us and giving us the opportunity to talk about you guys. Appreciate you considering us. Let's start with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For sure. No, first of all, thanks so much for joining the show, Shane. That's my first thing, obviously. I've known you since you came into the league. You were one of those guys who I covered up growing up. And it's an honor to have you here in my Triple Threat Show with Chima Moneke and George Amerikanos. So that's 100%. My first question, because since we've been part of the Crown Season and since everyone is starting to, watch the first few episodes, is how did you came up with the idea of, starting something different for European basketball, which is a different show in terms of, backstage, behind the scenes, and what was the idea behind the project?
The idea really came from just where it started is my enjoyment of the game of basketball here in Europe and the EuroLeague itself. I think it's a really good product. I think it just doesn't get the global recognition that it deserves. So I was always saying to my friends, to my family, is like, y'all don't even understand how passionate the fans are over there, the lifestyle that you can live over there. So I was just like, how can I bring more attention to this situation over here? And I know just talking to some friends, I came up with the idea. Obviously, I saw Starting Five on Netflix and how they were following guys throughout a whole season. And I think that production was really nice to see those guys' lifestyle, because you know what people look like and how people seem like they are on the court just by watching basketball games, but you don't really understand what goes into it. So just to be able to bring some, notoriety to the level of skill, the competition, the passion for the game of basketball over here in Europe that isn't really seen on a higher level, on a big platform, was kind of the idea that went into it. And I think it's been received pretty well, and hopefully it continues to get better and better.
First of all, welcome to the show, my brother. I appreciate you.
Proud, brother.
I feel like we're on the same boat, because I completely agree that the EuroLeague needs to be promoted way better. And for the talent level and like the competitiveness that we have in this league versus the how it's received, how it's broadcasted throughout the world, it's not even close to where it should be. So in what other ways do you think, the EuroLeague can be, promoted better and broadcasted better? And what other ideas do you have? Because I want to tap into whatever you have.
Well, I think a big thing about promoting leagues, bro, is, and this is I'm not trying to sound cocky or conceited or whatever, but I think the NBA, the way the NBA grew and how it got more global, is they built it on the backs of the star players, And at the end of the day, these players become big names, and people want to be around them, people want to see them, people want to pay attention to what they're doing. Michael Jordan is a huge name, obviously, across the world, globally. He's the GOAT, And I think the NBA did a great job of kind of pushing his narrative and making him larger than life. And I think because of that, people were so much more prone and in tune with what was going on in the NBA due to him. And now I think you see how now the NBA promotes their guys. The NBA sends guys to Fashion Week, and the NBA goes with them and says, hey, these are our guys. So when you see Shea wearing some nice clothes, you're like, oh, that's a fashionable guy. So now you have the interest of the fashion world, and they're like, oh, but he plays basketball. So then you just bring some eyeballs from the fashion world to the basketball side of it. And I think the EuroLeague doesn't do that well. I think, there's guys that have amazing stories over here that are legends, players that have, shifted the way games have been played in certain countries. And the fact that people don't even know who they are sometimes across the road is crazy to me. Like, Spinula should be a name that many, many, many more people know. Dionysis. You can go time after time after time. So many players that just kind of come through, dominate, play at a high level, and they kind of go about their business, and their story and their legacy isn't told. And I think being able to not necessarily pick and choose who you want to push, but like every year there's going to be some guys that are having great seasons. And I think the EuroLeague needs to kind of promote these guys and push these guys to grow the fan base, grow the fandom of what the EuroLeague is, because it's not just great basketball. It's not just great characters. It's not just great fan bases, great, passionate people. It's a whole picture. It's a whole, thing altogether that is what makes the EuroLeague. So I think all those different aspects of what EuroLeague is and the players that go into it and why they're over here and telling their stories is a way that you can build up the league and, have more people tune in, which only helps the league grow, maybe start making some money, maybe start, being able to have something similar to what, the NBA is, because it's a very competitive league. The talent level is there. So why can't it be, something similar? I don't think it'll ever be the NBA because the NBA is the NBA. But at the end of the day, the way the NBA is, captured the attention of the basketball world. And it's like NBA or not is crazy to me, because this game is played in Australia and China and Europe and anywhere you want to say it, the game is being played. So there's more stories that need to be told and more, awareness that needs to be brought to the game. And I think one of those ways to do it is just off the backs of players, off of your podcast, off of your YouTube channel, off of those kind of things of who is Chima? Who is he? Why is he? Where is he? What's he doing? Serbia, all about the fan bases. But now let's dive into you, and you show a different side of it that allows people to get an inner look of what goes into being, one of the best players in the EuroLeague. So I think that is a way that you can go about it. And that's pretty much what I'm trying to do now.
I completely love that point, because there's so many fans of, let's use the Michael Jordan example, that are Chicago Bulls fans really because of Michael Jordan, but they've never been to Chicago or America before. And they're from all around the world, South Korea, Nigeria, Brazil. And then they go to America, they travel, they see the game, they pay attention. Jordan retires, now they're NBA fans,
Right.
That's just simple. That's a simple way, the most successful way to build the game. And you look at the EuroLeague, there's some teams that don't let their players do interviews. Like they only do you sponsor the same partners. And I ask guys to be on the channel. They're like, yo, I would love to, but my team won't let me. And I just never understood that.
Right.
Jim, it's interesting that you bring that up. I don't know if you remembered last year when Matthias Tesor joined the Triple Threat show, he mentioned that it would be important for him, for the kids in Martinique to be able to purchase Matthias Tesor jerseys. They would do that if he played for the Knicks, Bucks, Celtics, or whatever, but they're not able to buy Pana jerseys. And he spoke about the importance of that for his country. So that's definitely an interesting point, Shane. And honestly, I think that the league has made strides. And, with guys like you and Chim moving forward, hopefully we'll move the league, up slowly yet steadily.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. I think once you come over here and you get to be a part of it and see what actually goes into it, I think you find a newfound respect for what it is, the grind of it, what kind of work goes into it from all aspects, not just players, coaches, everything. So I think people being able to see that from a different perspective and understanding what's really going on over here definitely will help grow it slowly but surely. I think that's probably the model that it needs to have right there, slowly but surely.
The thing I wanted to touch on and add to what Shane has said earlier, and that's for Chima as well, is the fact that we see you guys, especially you guys, both of you, with last year's podcast that Shane, you had this year with Crown Season, Chima with the Triple Threat Show with his YouTube channel. So you guys are trying, obviously, to, promote the EuroLeague, But at the same time, especially in Europe, since, there's fans who are more traditional, who don't necessarily understand how an American player, let's say, wants to promote the EuroLeague or, revolutionize the game. He may say to you guys that you guys stick to playing basketball because it's not good for the league to have professional basketball players who are talking about the game of basketball like they're journalists or something. So my question to you is, how do you deal with that? Because in my eyes, and what I've witnessed with Chima, is that he's been getting a lot of heat in the comments weekly. The fact that he's not, he's a YouTuber instead of a basketball player, or he should be practicing instead of, recording a podcast, which is like 45 minutes an hour per week, which is better, obviously, than him playing video games at home. So my question to you, Shane, is how do you deal with that? Because it's a bit different in comparison to the States to have, the European fan base chime in and say, okay, Shane, Chima, Elijah Bryant, the guys are doing their thing.
Elijah, does he get hate like Chim and Jane maybe?
I don't know. I'm just, for my eyes, I know what Chima is getting, obviously. And that's my question to you is, how do you deal with that? And do you think that there's a misconception or that people in Europe don't necessarily understand where you guys are coming from?
I think whenever you do something on a big platform and a lot of people pay attention to it, there's going to be hate anyway. So you could be doing YouTube, you could be walking your dog for too long, they're going to still talk because that's just what people do. I don't really pay attention to it, honestly. I've been in a lot of situations in my basketball career where people have said the craziest things to me, so I don't really care what anybody from the outside has to say about my off-the-court activities as long as I'm doing what I need to do on the court. And I think, you said something special, or not special, but you said something that is like very specific. A European fan is a bit different. It's like a bit different fan versus an American fan, because I think over here it's a true passion for teams, clubs, and because of that I think is where the misconception is, because I'm sure a lot of the people that are talking about Chima and the show is probably, partisan fans are probably a big part of it, just trying to get in his head because you know how serious that rivalry is. And maybe a couple of their own fans as well, if they're losing a couple games, they've been kind of like this year. So just trying to realign his focus, but you can't really pay too much attention to that stuff. And I think, having a platform such as Crown Season, not trying to put my own thing here, but it gets to show you the inner workings of his life. Like, okay, yes, he does his podcast, but he practices for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. He does some treatment on his body. That's another hour. There's still 8 to 10 hours left in the day when you're done with practice. Why can't he go do one other thing that he maybe has a passion for, a hobby that can help promote his brand or help promote the thing that he loves, which is the EuroLeague? So I think the fan bases over here are very intent on specific clubs because I think they have this loyalty to clubs they grew up with and or grew up with. And I think that leads to a lot of the comments and stuff that you see. But the way to deal with it is just, understand that as long as you're putting the work in and you're, being a true professional, getting your work in, sleeping right, eating right, and being available for your team every single night, then you can't really sit there and worry too much about what somebody has to say because people will always say stuff. So
Yeah.
And it helps when you won too, right, Shane?
Huh?
It helps to ignore when you won too, right? You got 2 rings.
Yeah, that definitely helps. But even before that, bro, I played on the Knicks in 2014, 15, and we won 17 games. You want to talk about people talking crazy? That's probably the craziest people I've ever spoken to me in my life. A very passionate fan base as well. We win 17 games. Phil Jackson is the damn president of the damn franchise at the time, and people are coming to the game with bags on their heads, saying the craziest, most wildest things you're ever gonna hear. So. At the end of the day, dealing with that at 22 years old, sitting here now, 11 years later, I think, what can somebody say to me that I haven't heard before, So.
And there's a difference between people typing comments on Instagram versus seeing it in real life. Genuinely, I cannot remember one incident in real life where someone has approached me and said some shit that I've read on Instagram. Genuinely. They say things, in crowds and they boo and they say blah, blah, blah. But I've gone to all these cities. I've played in all these arenas, and I take so many photos in real life.
Right. Right.
That's how I look at it. Instagram comments are one thing, and most of those motherfuckers will never.
They also switch it up. They also switch it up when you respond.
Exactly. That's another thing. That's another thing. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Someone will say some crazy stuff, and first of all, I'll look at their Instagram. It says follow back, and I'm like, okay, so you're following me first of all, and then I respond to the message, and they're like, honestly, I didn't mean that. I was just saying.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Let's just continue on crown season. I was wondering, what was the thought process? Obviously, Mike James, he's up there in the GOAT conversation. Matthias Lesor, best center in the league before he went down. What made you pick those two guys for crown season 1?
So when we went into the thought process of picking people, obviously, you want to have people who have accomplished certain things because you want to have people that people are interested in. And I think Mike is probably I'm not going to say the most, but Mike is one of the most volatile personalities that we've had in Europe, and probably the most misunderstood as well. Mike has had damn near every label that you can have in basketball. He's a cancer. Get him out of here. He's the GOAT. It goes from whatever angle you look at it, you have your own perspective of who he is. But has Mike ever really been able to sit there in front of somebody and tell his story, or has anybody ever been behind the scenes and been around Mike to actually know who he is? No, it's just whatever you see online, whatever you see, because he likes to tweet. Mike's always on social medias. So people think certain things just because he does those things. But I think being able to see him from a different light will help people understand him. And I think having a guy that has the most points in the league is very important on your show to kind of show, his story and how he got to where he got to, because it's a very unique story. And if you would have told Mike 15 years ago, 17 years ago that he'd be the leading scorer in EuroLeague history, I don't think many people would have sat here and agreed with you and be like, yeah, I can see that happening. A guy playing in, the places that he played before he got to where he got to. So his story is very interesting. And I think that's why he's also a good friend of mine, why I wanted him on the show. And then Matthias as well. I've played against Matthias many years before he became who he is now. And, he was in Bayern. He was in a bunch of other places before, and I don't think he had the respect that he has now. So just to see his story and what he's gone through to get to where he's gotten to and to become the guy that he is very important as well, because of where he began. He didn't even start playing basketball in Europe until however old he was. He was in Martinique, and I was talking to him the other day, and he was like, on my island, there's like 5 basketball courts that have roofs on the entire island. So to go from that to where he is now is a crazy story, and it's on completely different sides of the world as well. So it just goes to show you like what can go into it, and I think that's why he was very important to get on there as well. And then obviously including myself, just because I have a story as well that it's been very kind of like all over, and I would have never expected myself to be in this position. So just adding myself to that as well. I think adds a nice nucleus of people that have different stories from different places. I was a first round pick; those guys were not. So for them to be in a place where they are on the same level or even higher, depending on how you look at it, it's crazy. So I think those two guys are very important to be on it, and they also have good personalities. They're funny, and Matthias has a loud personality on the floor. Mike isn't so personal on the floor or loud, but off the court, if you know Mike, Chima knows Mike. Mike is a completely different guy than what he is on the floor, what the media perceives him as. So that's why I wanted those two guys on the show. And then obviously we have some things coming here in the future where people will be able to see more and more that we're really excited about. So that was really what went into the thought process of getting those guys on the show.
I thought you just wanted to promote your Halloween parties, but it's cool.
That was a good preview, but a lot of other stuff goes on. So
I like it.
All right, can we switch gears and go to the NBA a little bit? Shane, I followed you when you were there, especially playing for the Celtics. Can you talk about that series that went 7? If I'm not mistaken, isn't that the Terry Rozier? Who is that? The series where Eric Bledsoe was like, and then Terry Rozier wore the Drew Bledsoe jersey, Can you talk about taking part in that 7-game series against the Bucks, coming out on top? And I need some nuggets on that story because it was super fun to watch as a fan.
I mean, that series was crazy. Obviously, that season we went into the season with a lot of expectations. Kyrie, Gordon. We had a really good, talented roster. We had some good young guys, JB, JT. We had a lot of guys on the team, actually. And then Kyrie got hurt halfway through the year. Gordon hurt his ankle, broke his ankle the first game of the season. So I think a lot of people wrote us off early in that year. Then for the team to kind of come together the way it did, for Terry to have the season he did, for JT as a freshman, not a freshman, as a rookie to play the way he did, JB in his second year to step up. So to get into the playoffs alone, as I think we were a 3 seed that year, so maybe it's 3 or 4, was impressive.
You guys are the 1st seed, weren't you?
Nah.
Rookie
maybe the 2nd seed, and because I remember that Giannis was were one of his first playoff matchups with the Bucks. So maybe the 7th seed. Yeah.
Rookie year, JT, you guys are up there because you guys had home court advantage.
Yeah, I think we were the 3 seed. Milwaukee was 6. I think Toronto was 1. I think Cleveland was 4. And then I forgot who maybe Philly was 2, or maybe we were 2 and Philly was 3. I don't know, but regardless, to get to where we got to was pretty impressive. The way that team, gelled, because at that time you would say we didn't have any star players. You wouldn't call rookie JT a superstar. JB at that time not a superstar. Terry, Marcus Morris. So yeah, so to get to where we got to was impressive, and then that series alone was super exciting. I don't think anybody, we were all in the locker room, I think, before that series started, and I was looking at the predictions, and it was like, the Bucks in 5, the Bucks in 6, or whatever. So for us to go out there and play the way we did was really exciting. And then specifically Terry and that whole situation, Terry hadn't started many games, but towards the end of that second season, he started putting it together. And then he has a couple really good games late in the season and early in the playoffs. And then obviously they asked Drew or Eric Bledsoe in the.
Come on, man.
They asked how Terry was playing the way he was and if he was surprised. And I was blind. He was like, who? Who? Terry was like, all right, because Terry has this mentality about him, and Terry's from Ohio, and Terry's, been through the, trenches to get to where he got through. So that, I wouldn't say it pissed him off, but he was like, bet. That's all it was. It was like, all right, bet. I'm going to show you who I am. And then when he hit the little side or the snatch back, Trey about to hit the gang, bro, I don't know if, at that point in my career, I had bounced around a lot. But to be in the playoffs, playing real minutes at 25 years old in Boston, in the Garden, the history of it, to be a part of that. And then for him to hit that shot after the whole dramatics that went into it was, at that point, probably like the highlight of my career, to be a part of that series. And obviously, once he hit that shot, he found out very well who T-Row was. Yeah. So.
They came out with a fire T-shirt, the Scary Terry fire T-shirt back in the day. If you remember that. Yeah.
He got a picture of my phone that summer working out in that T-shirt. But, they came out with a great T-shirt, and he had a great series, and he turned that into, a lucrative career after that from, I think he was in his second or third year at that time. So, congrats to him. But that series was crazy, and to be able to win that, even with having home court advantage and not being the favorites, was definitely a highlight early on in my career.
I loved watching that series. I wanted the Bucks to win, obviously, because of Giannis, but it was a cool series.
It was. A lot of names in that series. Jabari Parker was there. A lot of names.
Wow. All right, let's go Turkey.
I got to follow up on the NBA and the EuroLeague, the fact that you decided, obviously, to not be a backup option in the NBA, and you decided to come here to the EuroLeague to check out the level, and then you have your career here, you win too, you become a EuroLeague legend. How tough is it for an American to come overseas? You and Mike James, obviously there's been a comparison since you both came into the league. but how important is it and how tough is it for an American to come overseas and, stay here, not look back, and decide that he's not coming back to the NBA? Because it's totally different to start, to have an idea in your mind that you're going to play like 1 or 2 years and then you're going back to the league. And it's different to say no to the NBA as a backup option. I want to be the star. I want to do things my way. And I want to be, a foreigner in the EuroLeague and become like a legend who fans are going to respect for the next how many years. So how important was that for you after your NBA career?
It was very important for me. And whenever I speak on, NBA or Europe, I think for me, it comes down to one thing. As I classify myself as a hooper, and I like to hoop. That's just what it is. I want the opportunity, I want the responsibility, and I want to be a part of winning or losing. And I think a lot of the times as a backup in the NBA, you don't really have the opportunity. You're not on the floor in those moments where the games are decided. And it just didn't fit well with me. It didn't sit well with me. And I thought, and I always was confident enough to, say that I am good enough to be out there. I want to be out there. It just, however my career went, I wasn't in those situations enough to, take advantage of it. And then when I came to Europe and I, had that first taste of, in my pro years, being responsible, having, a chance to win a game or lose a game in Baskonia, it revitalized my love for basketball because, I was not a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, 3 stars, end up going to college, transferring, end up at Miami, having a great couple of years, getting drafted, first round pick. So it kind of went from I love basketball to this kind of explosion of all right, this 2 years before I got drafted, I would have never told you I was going to get drafted in 2 years. Myself, I wouldn't have said it. So for me to be able to improve and for me to be able to, put on body weight and understanding the game in those 2 years and to, be sitting there next to Dirk 2 years after being in high school as your teammate, it was a crazy experience for me. And then obviously getting injured, bouncing around early on, you finally land in a place that believes in you in Victoria. And you have a coach that keeps telling you, be Shane Larkin, be Shane Larkin, be Shane Larkin. And I hadn't really heard that or felt that since college. And to be in that atmosphere again and to feel it, it kind of revitalized my love for the game of basketball because in the NBA as a backup, as a young guy coming off a broken ankle, you have a role that is this small and you can improve it a little bit by a little bit. But, my role there is just I didn't feel like I was being utilized the way that I am, to the best of my ability, to who I am. They were asking me to pick up 94 feet and pass the ball and go to corners. That's not me. It's never been me, but that's the role that I was given. So to be able to go to Baskonia and get that love back for the game, to have the ball in my hand, to play up tempo, to be able to be responsible for stuff. Once I found that again, I did go back to the NBA once more, to Boston after that Baskonia year because of, a lot of things, but ended up back in Efes with those same responsibilities again. And I think just me being a hooper and not a guy who wants, pass out water bottles and give high fives on the bench because I'm playing 12 to 15 minutes. It just never was me. And there are guys who don't really love this game. There's guys who say they're hoopers, but they'd rather wear tunnel fits and pass out water and give towels to guys as opposed to be on the floor in front of, 15, 20,000 people and having to put your money where your mouth is. All right, get the stop then. If you about that, get the stop. Score the basket. I want to be that guy. I want to be guarding or I want to be scoring. I don't want to be the guy that's over there. Once the game ends, good job, guys. Y'all got it done today. That's what it was all about for me. And I don't think you can come over here and be successful if you're not a hooper. You just can't, because it's not about anything else over here except winning and losing and being able to help your team win games, especially as a foreigner. So I think that's what it's always been about for me and why I've enjoyed it over here so much. And I think the thing that makes it hard for Americans over here is that fact. I don't think a lot of guys are hoopers. I don't think a lot of guys love this game. Because if you come to Europe and you're away from your family and you're away from everything that you're comfortable with for such a long period of time, if you don't love basketball, you wouldn't want to be where you are. And if you can't be where your feet are, you'll never be able to be successful. So, I think that's what all goes into it and why I think I've been able to do it. I think Mike's been able to do it. Chima, all the guys that come over here and stick and have good careers. get here and then do this once they get here as opposed to doing this when they get here. It's real genuine hoopers that can do it and love to do it, and given different situations or given different responsibilities in different parts of their careers, probably could be in different situations, but yeah, they landed where they landed and are enjoying where they are, and now are being able to show their true talent and their real ability. I think that's what makes this league so great.
Wow.
That's
Fire.
I got a couple questions. Obviously, Burrow, you are a legend, and like we cannot use that word, but just anybody, especially while they're still playing. You know, you won some titles. COVID year happened. You were like, we talk about what you were doing that COVID year, like enough, because you was averaging like 22 in like whatever minutes, and the efficiency was crazy, and it was you didn't get to get your MVP and possibly another title and all of that. You were, you know, the EuroLeague record holder for most points in a game until Nigel got you. I'm sorry. How did you feel about that? And what stands out to you most overall, being someone that is constantly receiving their flowers for what they've done in this league?
I mean, COVID season was, yeah, that was a tough one. Obviously, we were playing really well as a team. I mean, I don't think since that year, I don't think anybody's had scored that many points or had that level of PIR. I think it was like 26 or something, 22 a game, 50, 50, 90 shooting. I will go on a record that I think that's the best individual season in EuroLeague.
But it is.
Chima's been saying that a lot, Shane.
Yeah, I don't think.
Before you go ahead, I were like, you know, there's a lot of legends in this game, and you know, there's people that I never got to see play, so all I can do is go back and look at stats and all of that. And I feel like people downplay people that are currently playing, and when you retire and there's no more like messages from like game to game or losing seasons, and you just look back on Shane Larkin as a whole, like you'll get even more love. But that season, I sat down and looked at everyone else's best season, MVP season, and all that. That season genuinely blew me away. And I was seeing videos about prime this person versus that prime this person, and I'm like, more people need to be picking that boy Shane. And I've said this on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that season, it's interesting to talk about that season because a lot of things happen different if that season continues. You know, if that season ends, I do think I probably win MVP that year. I definitely win scoring title. I think we were 24-4 when that season ended, so we were going to be the 1 seed. I don't know who was in 8th place that year, but I think we would have been favored to win that year. But then it's like you got to look at it from this perspective. If that season finishes, I probably never play another game in Europe because I would have been back in America.
Yeah.
You know, and
3 years, 18, something like that. 3 years, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Crazy is, I think I can say this now. I did have an offer at that time, even after that season ended. I did get an offer to go back to the league, and I actually accepted that offer. But because of COVID, free agency started. I had NBA out to my contract, and because of COVID, free agency started in August, I believe, August 10th or 15th or something like that. And in my contract, it was like if I don't sign or if I don't agree to an NBA deal before July 20th, then I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. So free agency didn't start, so they couldn't offer me an official contract until August, whatever the hell the day was. And as soon as they offered it on the first day they could, I accepted it, sent it to Efes. Called Brian Dunston. You can ask Brian if you see him. Called Brian, called Roddy Dubois. I was like, yo, I love y'all. I know we have an unfinished business there in Efes, but you know, I feel like this is my opportunity to go back. And it was a 3-year deal, good money. But, you know, never was able to go due to those stipulations in the contract of those buyout days. And this is why it's bittersweet, because that didn't happen, because I wasn't able to go back. Voila, back-to-back titles. So, you know, it's like a lot of things that go into it around that story. But I think my legacy as a player would definitely be much different if I had that MVP in my pocket, if I did have, you know, if I did have that scoring title, because I think then people would have more respect for what I have done as opposed to what they look at it now. They see that I don't have certain things, but if I had that season, I would have everything. I'd have every check on the list would be done. So it is what it is, but that's definitely like a bittersweet kind of situation whenever I do think about it.
What team? What team are you allowed to say?
Detroit Pistons. And I think that year they drafted Killian Hayes. And actually, I mean, we were talking during that time because he was in playing, and obviously was happy for him when he got drafted. But I think they drafted Killian Hayes, and then he did not play well, so I would have probably played a lot of minutes. And then the next season, I think they carried Cunningham, I think. So, yeah, bro, it is what it is. Obviously, I think at that time, if anybody was around me during that time, I genuinely felt like I was a top 15 point guard in the world. It did not matter. Anything I threw in the air, I thought that shit was going in the basket. It did not fucking matter.
The percentages were crazy though, because
Bro, it was, and I was a EuroLeague fanboy at this time, like, and it was a few people that were like must-see television. I'm running home to watch Shane Larkin, Mike Nando, and Alexei Shved, and that year specifically, bro, it was just different. It was just different, genuinely.
Yeah, it was a good season, bro. So, like I said, bittersweet that it ended the way it did. Obviously, you have to be, conscious of the world. And I remember people asking me how I felt about, the season being cut short because I lost out on all those things. And I was like, 20 years from now, would I rather be able to say, oh, I won MVP that year, but because of that, X, Y, and Z happened. These people got sick. These people lost family members. This, that, and the third. I'll be like, bro, I'd feel so fucking shitty about that I wouldn't care about those MVPs. So,
as fans, we got robbed of that Cheska Efes spot because Cheska was good too that year.
They were
like I was looking forward to that final between Efes and Cheska just as a fan. Grab some popcorn and let them play.
I think I don't know. I think Efes for sure. We know that, but. Barca was also
I know, I agree, but Cheska was like Cheska had Mike Milutinov. They were right.
I think they were fourth or fifth place though, bro. I think Barca was second. I think we were 24-4.
Cheska was second.
Yeah, but all due respect, Barca in the Final Four.
See, that's crazy.
It's history. I mean, it's not. It's just facts. Like, sorry.
The 24-4 record though was crazy.
That was high level basketball, man.
Yeah.
That was high level basketball.
Hey, I mean, and if you want to look at it from a broad scope, it wasn't just me that year. Go look at our whole team.
Like,
Everybody was just
we were all just like it was a flow state.
A couple things to touch up before we end this special recording. Let's start with Turkey. You've been there for a while. It's your second home. Can you talk about the foundation that you got going on right now?
I mean, yeah, I think I've been well documented in my love for Turkey and how it's, impacted my life and my career. And I think the foundation just came from that. Being able to want to give back to this country and the support that they've given me. My life changed significantly when I got here. And I would say the person I landed here as, I'm much different as I am today. Grown up in many ways, it's the only place I've spent more than 5 years of my life outside of my hometown. So it means a lot to me. And to be able to give back and to be able to show my appreciation to these people for everything that they've done for me. And not just be a guy who comes here, makes a bunch of money, and leaves. Like I didn't want to be that way, and I didn't want that to be my perception because that's not how I feel about this place. So just try to find a way to get back into the community without, damaging what I had going on the court. And I think being able to utilize who I am and being able to utilize the respect that I have throughout the country to go out there and help people who are in need together collectively is very special. My foundation is not possible without these people here. I have a great team behind me, and the people in the community here in Turkey are very good people, passionate people, helpful people. So to be able to come together on certain aspects and put our minds together to help people who are in need is, I think, very important. I think people need to do more of that. But that's where the foundation idea came from. And I'm thankful that it's been able to do the things that it's done so far.
Can you talk a little bit about Ergin Ataman as well? You've spoken about him before on various podcasts. You know, a situation unfolded with Pana. They went through a mini crisis. What can you say about Ataman that maybe we don't understand, like you said about Mike James before?
What crisis did they go through, though?
They lost some games. They lost a home game.
That's a crisis.
Well, to be honest,
we're a little bit extra. We're a little bit extra here in Greece, man. You already know this. We're a little extra.
This is what I'm saying.
To be honest, no. To be honest with you, because I got to respond to that.
They weren't playing well, man. Come on.
No, first of all, they weren't playing well, and the crisis that you're referring to is the fact that DPG went on Instagram and said what he had to say. About the coaching staff, about the players, the fact that he had a meeting with the team a month ago after they lost to Olympiacos. So even though in my eyes, that wasn't a big of a deal a month ago, the fact that you are top 4 in the EuroLeague and you lose to Olympiacos for the 10th, 11th straight time in the EuroLeague, that's a big deal to some people, obviously, in Greece and the rivalry that there is between Panathinaikos and Olympiacos. But after that, since you're not playing well, since you don't have the roles that you wanted, since there's drama with what Coach Ataman has told in the media many, many times, and the cherry on top was the loss in the Greek league and what DPG said on Instagram, that's the crisis that George is referring to. So
you lose to Milan at home and Bayern away, it's like you're losing games you should be winning.
It's a crisis. It's a crisis for Panathinaikos' standards, given the fact that they have the Final Four in Athens, that in many people's eyes, they are, one of the favorites on paper to go all the way. So that's why I think crisis is the word to use right now. In a few weeks or a month, it could be a totally different story.
Yeah, but my question was about Ergin.
Yes, I agree.
We don't
I just
know about
responded
him,
to what Shane told me.
And we misconceive about him.
Yes.
Potentially.
Well, the crisis, I think the thing that Ataman does is this is how Ataman tries to motivate guys. Ataman goes out there to the media and kind of throws you under the bus and watches you roll under the bus. And he wants to see how you respond. That is how he goes about his business. That's how he was in Efes. That's how he is there. He's going to attack his players. He's going to do the punishment practices. He's going to push you. And then you'll go and show if you can play or if you can't play. I think he said somewhere on a podcast or an interview somewhere, he was like, people know my system. If you can play, you can play. And I think that's just who he is and how he goes about, his coaching style. And either that works for you or it doesn't. And he's had success. So for him, that's how he's going to go about it. And that's how he should go about it. And then I think the thing about the crisis to me, looking at it from the outside, which was interesting to see, is like, I think that's the first time anybody did an Ataman to Ataman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think anybody has ever done that since he's won, 3 out of the last 6 or something like that. I think he's kind of established himself as a well-respected coach who's accomplished all that you need to accomplish on the EuroLeague level, Euro Cup he's won. So he's been very successful. And he's been on record saying, if you look the last, 5 years, I'm the best coach. And what can you say about it? Has anybody else won 3 in the last 5, 7, 6 years? Not at all. So it is a fact at the moment. If you want to look at it as results matter, which is what this business is based on. So it was just interesting to see somebody doing Ataman to Ataman from the outside. And then I think Ataman's response to it, I think yesterday or today or whatever, it was also good. And he was like, listen, I do this to my players sometime, and DPG was correct. He did it to me, and we have to respond. And then they go out there and they respond and come back from whatever 15 or whatever they were down to Madrid and go win the game. So maybe the way Ataman liked to motivate guys is the way DPG motivated him. And I think that can be a great relationship based on that. But I can't get into that because I don't know. I'm not over there. I don't know the inner workings of what's going on outside of that. So it was interesting. And the one thing I would say about Ataman that people wouldn't know is like he's actually a cool dude. Like he's actually really chill. He likes to swim. Like, he's a very laid back kind of guy. He enjoys his life. And he likes basketball. He loves basketball. He's passionate about basketball, but he does say like basketball is a show. It's entertainment. Like this is what we do it for. It is hard work. There is dedication that needs to go into it. You have to respect the game in order to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's a game that we've played since we were 5 years old. So at the end of the day, I think his broad scope overall look of it is, this is all entertainment, and this is some of his antics, I think, is for those things. He loves the game. He's passionate about it. He has a good basketball mind. But at the end of the day, he knows that basketball is basketball. And, there are bigger things in life. So I would say that's, something interesting that people may not know about Ataman because he's not all over social media, blah, 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 outside of basketball stuff. And just being around him for, 6-7 years now from national team at Efes. He is off the court. He's like a very cool, like relaxed, chill guy.
All right, rapid fire and wrap it up.
Yes, before we let you go.
If Shane says that he's going to come back on the show, because we're a little bit pressured right now, would you consider coming? I'll tell you what, Mike James, TJ Shorts did it 2 times last season.
Hey, man, I got a lot of free time at the moment. So,
all right. All right. Go ahead, D. Take it away.
Let's go to the rapid fire questions and we'll let you go. Starting it off with the toughest arena you've ever played at in your career in the EuroLeague.
I would say probably last year in the playoff, Game 5, Penna was like the loudest I think I've ever heard in the arena. I actually ran out there and for like 5 to 10 seconds, my ears would ring in, and I was like, this has never happened to me before. So I would say last year playoffs, Penna was probably the toughest.
Who's the toughest defender you've ever played against?
For me, I would say both in EuroLeague. This is all EuroLeague, right?
Yep.
Probably Charles Jenkins. Early on, I was not prone to like the hand checking and the physicality that you could play with over here. So in my first year, Charles Jenkins was able to get into my body with that forearm, and I had no response for it. So I had to learn how to deal with that. So I'd say Charles Jenkins.
Who's the toughest player to guard?
Over the years, this is gonna be interesting name. Obviously, Mike. So that's Mike. He has the most points ever. It's Mike. But for me personally, because quickness isn't what I lack in, so quick guys don't really bother me as much. The smart guys that know how to get into your body and manipulate the game is the guys that are difficult for me. So like Nando had always been somebody for me that was just like, anytime I like do something out of, he's gonna find a way to get me in foul trouble. He's gonna get a back door. One time here in Turkey, he threw the ball off my back and got a layup, and I was pissed. So it was like he's been a guy that I think in terms of matchup, he's not a cross sidestep getting his bag kind of problem. But if it gets to that right hand and he get that shoulder on you, he's gonna draw a foul. He's gonna make an assist, or he's gonna shoot a layup. He's gonna slow step you. He's going to Euro. He shoots 50, 40, 90 every year. So I would say, Nando.
He's going to Chris Paul you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would say Nando has always been a difficult matchup, outside of Mike, obviously.
Who's the best trash talker?
The best trash talker. People don't really talk trash to me, bro. To be honest with you.
That's every single player we've asked this question. Every single player says no one talks.
No, but he says they don't talk trash to me. Why would you poke the bear? He's not saying nobody talks trash in general, right?
Okay.
I mean, some people do talk trash, like within the league. But to me, it hasn't happened often.
Who's the best player in Europe right now?
Ooh. The best player in Europe right now? Jesus. You guys give me some time to answer this one. A lot of ways you can go. You could go Sasha. You can, but Sasha obviously has his limitations. So it's like, what are you looking for? You can go K9. You obviously can go that route as well. I'm just gonna include everything. You're starting a team tomorrow, and you got to pick one guy. I'd probably go K9 right now.
Okay.
You know,
Who's the GOAT?
that's another one. I actually had this conversation the other day with 4 different coaches on our staff, and I got 4 different answers. So yeah, 4 different. Somebody told Roga.
Yeah, Bodhi Roga. Yeah.
Roga. One guy said Saras.
Okay.
One guy said Dionysis, and one guy said Spanoulis. So it's like, for me, it wouldn't be fair for me to say it because I don't know the history well enough.
Yeah.
But from what I do know and what I have seen in the moments and the clutchness, that I guess I would say Spanoulis.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'd be correct in saying that. I think it just depends on who you talk to. Like if you talk to a Panda fan, what are they going to say?
Diamantidis.
If you talk to Olympiacos,
Spanoulis, yeah, for sure.
And so I just think all throughout Europe, I think it's more so predicated and dependent upon that.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't matter. Like it's not really about who is the GOAT because
I'm probably the only Greek who says neither. And I got
Neither?
Saras. Yeah, I got Saras. Saras is my favorite point
Saras?
guard of all time.
Okay.
Yeah, not the GOAT. He's my favorite point guard of all time. No questions asked. Like even though these guys have delivered medals, so.
Who's the GOAT? I'm gonna ask y'all on y'all show, all 3 of y'all. Who's the GOAT?
I say right now it's Spanoulis.
Yeah, you got to go Billy. He's won 3. He's just iconic. You know, it's not like I understand the other candidates. It's just that he has everything. You know, the whole package of being the GOAT.
Right.
Chima?
What does he have though that Salas doesn't have? I just want to know from y'all's perspective.
The more iconic moments in my eyes.
So the side steps.
The sidesteps, the game winners, the Final Four, not scoring in the entire game and then turning it up in the fourth.
But there's
those
one
moments.
really, really important element. One guy has 4.
Yeah.
The other guy has 3. Just putting it out there.
And the fact, Shane, that he went from, obviously like one of the best teams ever in Panathinaikos, and he said, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to go to the rivals, and I'm going to beat you guys, even though they weren't the same team. So that's the storyline that there is, which is kind of, iconic to say. Chima?
How about Sluki if he wins one more?
Chima has to say.
But Chima, who's... Yeah, sorry, my bad. I already know what he's going to say.
I asked the players at the Final Four in 2024, and most people said Spanoulis.
Yeah.
But for you, who is your GOAT?
I feel like my answer is like Shane. I didn't watch. I didn't watch, so it'd be silly for me to like say, well, no, this guy's. And I'm also the type that's like biased to the guys that I'm seeing now. But based on what I've heard and the research I've done, like I like Spanoulis.
Okay. And then final one for you, Shane. What's your Final Four prediction for this year?
Ooh, you try to get me all on Twitter, huh?
Hey, man. Hey, we got a job to do. We could try to do it correctly with respect to you guys.
All right. I got this year. I have Hapoel. I do have Hapoel. I think they have a deep roster, a lot of talent, good coach. I have Finner. I think they're playing well. I think they started bad, and then now they're the hottest team in the league or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
This is where it gets tough. Because I would say I like those 2 teams in their depth. And then I think a lot of it's based on matchups, bro, because I think there's certain matchups for people are going to struggle with. If Chima and them are healthy, if you look at that roster, that could very well get through. I think a lot of that is matchup based as well, but I like them as, if I had to say somebody before the season that I believe to be able to get in, I would say them. And then one of the Greek teams. I'm not going to say and say both of them. want to sit here and pick one of them. So I'll say one of them.
So we have to half the logo. So we have to half the logo, only half Panda.
Right.
So the graphic designer is going to get hate comments. Cool. We got it.
Not me. Yeah, not me. A lot goes into it, though. It's like, how healthy is K9? Is K9 going to come back healthy? Is Matthias going to come back healthy? You know, a lot goes into it.
You tell us. You're filming Crown Season, right? You're producing it. So you should know more than us.
I can't tell you that, though. But
you just play the fifth. Play the fifth. It's all good.
Yeah, I plead the fifth. So it depends. And then what guards are going to be healthy in Olympiacos? You know, it's a lot goes into this stuff. And I think the depth matters. And I think both of those teams have depth. But that's why I think I like Red Star, because they just got Bowling Boy back. So they're building and they have depth and they found them. So I think having that depth and being able to win games while guys are out is very important, which is why I think Red Star is good, because they haven't had everybody healthy all throughout the year, and they are where they are without a full roster. Same with Olympiacos, same with the Panathinaikos, same with Finner, and now Hapoel's dealing with an injury with Elijah. So we'll see how they recover, because they're struggling late. But yeah, I would say those are my teams.
Nice.
Perfect.
That was a fire episode.
Rain check. I need the rain check on camera. Rain check.
Gotcha. Yeah,
we're good?
Check.
All right.
I got you.
That was the Triple Threat Show powered by Bwin. Special episode for Crown Season. Chim, good luck tonight. Good luck tonight. I need this one. I have this one circled as W. Good luck tomorrow night, that is. I apologize. From all of us, make sure you subscribe to ChimDO Triple G. Like and subscribe. And, of course, Crown Season. It's the channel's called Off the Record. Make sure to like and subscribe. Can't wait for episode 3. See you all next week.
Peace.